Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Resource for a common sense approach to planning for our financial, our investment, and our retirement futures. He is president and founder of Cornerstone Retirement Partners, and he is the founding partner there. Certified Financial Planner, CFP, Ron Corser, our resource here on the program. Ron, always a pleasure.
Good morning, Peter, and good morning to everybody listening to today's program. Here we are at the beginning of March. Hopefully spring is not too far away, although with Michigan, it may not show up until July, but we can always be hopeful. And coming into spring, one of the things we always talk about is kind of a spring cleaning. So this is a bit of a program where I'm going to do a little spring cleaning. What does that mean? We get clients and people who are just interested, who've listened to our radio program, email us things and also go to our website and plug in their questions. And what we're going to do with this, I think with this phone, is just kind of clear up and clean some of these questions up because I think they're important. I really do. So ladies and gentlemen, after listening to this, if you have questions, you don't have to be a client to ask us the questions. But if you have questions, go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. That's www.cornerstone-rp.com. Or give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Give us a question, whatever you want to talk about, and we'll get you an answer for that. So we're going to spend today's program kind of going over some of the things, and it's a recurring theme. Those are the things I'm going to talk about today. I get them. It's more than one time it happens. So I think this will be a great program. For those of you who have sent in questions, I may use your question. If you say, hey, I sent that one into Ron, give me a call and say thank you if you got a good answer that makes some sense, because a lot of these we've already answered again. So let's go forward with it. One of the first ones we get a lot is about Social Security and when to start it. We have talked a lot about that on the radio program because it's a never-ending question. Everybody has a different approach to how they think they want to deal with Social Security. And then a lot of people too listen to advice from certain sources and they say either one of two things. Oh, take it now because Social Security is going to be gone and you'll never get it and you'll be destitute eating, cat food or something as you go forward, or wait until you're 70 so you can max it out. Where do I come down on this question? Where does our firm, Cornerstone Retirement Partners, come down on it? It's that diaper question. It depends. There's no absolute one answer fits everybody. So let's go through this. Let's say you're 62 and you're working. And you're working full time. And you're having all your expenses met. The question becomes, why would you want to take Social Security early? Because there's an earnings test. If you make too much money in a given year, a little over 18,000 or so, you're going to end up giving a lot of your Social Security benefit back. So one of the first questions you need really to have somebody help you answer is, if you're still working full time and you're 62, it doesn't make a lot of sense financially to apply for and take Social Security. That's just kind of a blanket statement. Now, what about the other extreme? Well, you have to wait until you're 70 to really maximize it, and that's the best benefit. That can work, but if you're going to wait until 70, number one, you have to promise to live a long time. Number two, you have to make sure that you have enough income coming in from, say, the time you retire, whenever that might be, to the time you're 70. Where are you going to get the income you need in retirement to make sure you maintain your lifestyle? So between those two, extremes. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of this. And that's why my suggestion would be to anybody listening to today's program, because we get this question a lot, is give us a call at 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and put your question in there. You don't have to be a client. We will help everybody with this conversation because it is a conversation. Another point to consider is something called spousal income. What in the world is that? Well, for a married couple, if one of the people die, the man or the woman, there's one Social Security benefit that goes away, and it's the smaller benefit. And you get to keep, whoever the survivor is, the bigger benefit. That still turns out to be a cut in pay in retirement. It reduces income in retirement. So when doing a calculation on should you take it sooner or later, what's the best strategy, there's a lot of variables involved. We touched on, are you going to live a long time? What kind of health situation are you in? Are you going to keep working full-time or part-time? Because if you take it early, the income limit applies to you. And thirdly, what happens if, one of you die because the surviving spouse takes a cut in income? So it's not a really clear-cut, easy, one-size-fits-all answers. So give us a call, ladies and gentlemen, if we touched on something that says, you know what, I need to know more about taking Social Security in my situation, not my neighbors or my brother-in-law's. Give us a call at 616-301-2581 or go to our website. This is where some of these questions came from, www.cornerstone-rp.com. It's www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your question in there. We will contact you and help you the best way we can. That's a promise we make.
Ron, when the cumulative amount of income from Social Security is added up, what we receive over our lifetimes can be very substantial. In some cases, more than $1 million in just Social Security income over the course of our lifetime. But I have seen scenarios where you've shared examples of the reports that you've run where up to the same age and life expectancy, the difference in strategy meant more than a change and a shift than several hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a very substantial amount of money that a quick decision or an optimal decision after review and analysis really meant as far as the amount that somebody would get over their lifetime. Bottom line is that if we're living the same lifestyle, we're probably going to spend about the same amount. So that's money that either is going to come from Social Security or we're going to have to generate from our personal assets and investments. So I think just a little bit of time to look at this, what is a cornerstone of retirement, Social Security, a little bit of time in preparation and education and really in reflection on this is very much worthwhile. It's a sound investment.
We really can. And here's two things we'll do to help people. Number one, we will do free of charge a Social Security analysis and provide anywhere between 3 and 5 options for a married couple as to when to take Social Security and what the difference is in long-term income and also what the difference is in survivorship income going down the road. The second thing we'll do, because that's an important thing to do, is to have somebody do an analysis for you of potential strategies, what fits you. The second thing we'll do is we'll put that information into an income plan in retirement. Those two things go together. Taking Social Security is not something, well, I'm going to take it now and I'm going to be okay. You need to know what all of your options are, because you may find that one option works better for you long-term than you thought. And number two, it has to be part of an income plan in retirement. When I take it, if I'm going to postpone it, like you said, if I'm going to postpone it for a while, where am I going to get the income I need to maintain the lifestyle? So we do both of those things. They go hand in hand. And ladies and gentlemen, if this is the kind of help you want to make a determination on when to take Social Security as part of your retirement income plan, give us a call at 616-301-2581 or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and we'll help you with this. That's a promise we'll make.
Well, again, that is 616-301-2581 if you would like that Social Security report and analysis, or if you've got questions of your own that you would like to get addressed. And we do talk about some of the more common issues and questions here on the program, but the true value of the program, ladies and gentlemen, is that Ron and the team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, they are a resource for you to get your specific questions answered and addressed. And all you need to do to get that ball rolling, to get started on that, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or visit online, cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. And Ron, not all of the interactions that we get from the website are always in the form of a question per se. Sometimes folks just submit links to articles wanting to get your opinion on things. Had one here recently. It was a pretty good article that was actually featured on CNBC from a Harvard-trained economist, Lawrence Kotlikoff, and he said early retirement is one of the worst money mistakes you may make, and here's why you'll regret it. Now, that sounds kind of ominous and foreboding, and was wondering if you had a take on that information and the stance of the author of the article that was submitted.
Yeah, the thrust of the article was that the longer you postpone retirement or work, the better off you'll be, because you can save more. Your Social Security benefit will go up. If you have a pension plan, it might get a little better. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but it always gets back to, does it really apply to me? Does it really apply to me? I'll give you a great example. And I've used this before on the show. Long time ago when I was in this business, back in late 1998, I had met a couple, and they didn't become clients at that time, but they had worked here in Grand Rapids at a very good company. Both of them had went from piecemeal to other meal. They saved about close to $700,000. Of course, the markets were good, and he was a pretty astute investor. And we talked for a little bit, and we never really hit it off. But he did in fact retire because, excuse me, he had a heart attack, and the prognosis for living to be 144 was pretty slim at that point in time. So he and his wife, and this is going back into the roaring 90s, right? Those last 5 years, he retired in 1999. The reason I know this story is because he basically came back and we chatted back in 2003. 2004 again. They had enough money in retirement right then to retire. They didn't need Social Security. He got a little bump in healthcare, and they were able to cover that. Well, then what happened? He stayed fully invested through the 2002 debacle. And he was heavily invested in growth kind of stocks and funds. Well, when I met him later back in 2003, he had about just a shade under $200,000 left. His whole retirement plan was destroyed. He wasn't even eligible for Social Security yet, and certainly not for Medicare. So one of the things that I try to emphasize with people is that we get articles all the time from clients to say, Ron, what do you think? And you have to take a look and say, well, where are these people coming from? What's their current situation? Somebody who's big time author, educator on TV, they got money to last. But what they never talk about a lot is things like what we call sequence risk. That's the risk of losing money 3, 4, 5 years before, right after you retire because of a giant market correction. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about, well, I know everybody wants to live to be 144, but what happens if you have certain health situations that are going to make it very difficult for you to live to, say, full Social Security retirement age, 85, 90, something like that. So it's always important to say, okay, this article makes some sense. Number 2, does it apply to me? Number 3, who is the author and why would he say that? Because I get a lot of those things sometimes, and particularly you get articles about things like Bitcoin and other investment strategies. And it's always a situation of, let's understand why they're saying what they're doing. And does it apply to you? Does it make sense? So the articles are good to read. I encourage people to become more educated, but always ask the question, does it apply to me? And if so, in what way? And I think then you can kind of put all this extra stuff in a nice portfolio that makes sense for you. Does that make sense?
It does. It was a different direction than I expected you to take on this, Ron, but it brought up maybe some additional questions or perspectives. One is that continuing to work, probably from a financial standpoint, is not really going to be harmful for our long-term financial stability. However, I think we do need to balance quality of life with that along the way, is one part of what I gained from your answer. But the second one is that it's also equally and absolutely essential that our portfolio continue to reflect our stage in life. And here's where maybe ongoing monitoring and rebalancing and proactive positioning really could play a huge benefit for our continued financial stability, regardless of the timeline on which we choose to retire, whether it's early or late, or in some cases, for some of us, we don't want to.
Yeah, it's a good comment you made because it really gets down to a couple things. Are you partnering with a financial advisor who at least contacts you and talks to you? Here's what I mean. A lot of times we read about what people have done in the past, famous investors, and they always say a couple things. Know what you own. Make sure that the companies you're investing in are strong and have a good balance sheet and have good cash flow. Well, here's my question. If somebody's been working all their life investing in a 401k and IRAs, a lot of times they're buying mutual funds. Does your advisor take you through what those mutual funds own? Do people really know what they own? Is it really possible to know what you own if you own a growth mutual fund with 300 stocks in it? Is it really possible? Because most folks just say, well, I made money last year and last month my accounts were up, and that's really good news. But it always gets down to what happens if inflation starts to ridge. Will our accounts still work? Will our strategies still work? What about energy prices going through the ceiling? Will our strategies still work? There's a lot of other questions to ask about what you own in terms of retirement, in addition to some of the tried and true things like always know what you own, invest in good companies, have good cash flow. It's pretty hard for what I call the regular investor to answer those questions. And it's difficult at times for, I think, an advisor to give good advice in that. We do a lot of work when we have portfolios constructed and we talk to our clients about it. We try to give them really accurate projections on the amount of risk, because there's ways to actually measure risk other than saying not too much or a lot. If they're in the bond strategy, what's going to happen if interest rates continue to go up? Will they have enough income, and where it's going to come from? There's a lot of other things that go into the investment world. Most people don't own pure stock portfolios. They own mutual funds, exchange traded funds. We use exchange traded funds a lot in our firm because they're a little more easier to handle, and in taxable accounts, they're more tax efficient. So it's more than just knowing what you own, good companies, that kind of thing. AT&T is a good company. They just got their dividend. So if you bought AT&T in a dividend strategy, now what's the fallback? What are you going to do now? Because it was a pretty big cutback. So a lot goes into, yes, knowing what you own, but also understanding that sometimes you can't know every single detail, but you need to know the direction of your whole portfolio with what's going on in the world. And I know that sounds kind of wishy-washy and nebulous, but there's a lot more to this than just what I just talked about and knowing what you own and things like that.
And on a related note, another article that was submitted from Seeking Alpha, 5 best investment strategies for a volatile market. And I thought this was a pretty good one, just a bullet point. Stay invested, think long term, put your money to work consistently, dollar cost averaging rather than sitting in any cash. Know what you own. You touched on that. Focus on good companies and diversify. Find resources and tools to educate yourself. Nowhere in there, Ron, did it say dump everything and move to cash, or any rash knee-jerk reaction or move.
It doesn't. And most of Wall Street and the people who write articles are very much opposed to making changes in your portfolio. So you can look in the rearview mirror, and you can say, let's go back to the great debacle in 2008. That was an ugly, horrible, scary time when the whole financial system worldwide almost collapsed. And at what point in time the markets were down about 50%. So you can measure what happened if you'd have stayed invested just in a simple S&P 500 index fund. Yeah, it would have turned out okay. The average annual rate of return, and I can show this to people when they come in our office, over the last, since 2000, has been about 4.58% compounded. That's without taxes and inflation. So one of the things that we need to be aware of and understand is, okay, I can take a little bit of a wait and see approach when markets get a little fuzzy. But if your account goes down, if you have a $500,000 portfolio and your account goes down 10%, that's a $50,000 loss. How comfortable are you with that? See, one of the key questions to ask, and I call it a silly question, but it's really important. Let's pretend you have a $500,000 in your retirement plan. How would you feel if you made 10% gain? You made $50,000. I'd feel great. Okay. How would you feel if next month you lost 10%, which equates to $50,000? How would that make you feel? And most people will say, I don't want that at all. So somewhere between those two extremes, there's a place where people can go to feel reasonably comfortable. And it gets down to how much active, not management, so to speak, of buying and selling, but how much active participation do you want from your financial advisor? Do you just want to ride the wave because the markets always come back? Or do you want somebody to help you through these things and saying, okay, we have a lot of volatility in the market right now. We have a lot of scary things going on right now. Is the strategy I have, does it still make sense with rising inflation, with not being able to find groceries in a grocery store, with government spending? Does it still make sense given what's going on around me? Because ultimately the markets always go up. That's been the history of the stock market. It just depends on how we're measuring it. So let's go back and say from 2000 to 2010, that's been called the lost decade in investment world, because we had two major crack ups in the market. The markets were basically flat for 10 years. That's really frightening, because if you retired in 2000 and you stay fully invested and you're taking money out of your life savings, you don't have as much as you started with. You don't. So a lot of it gets down to, what are we going to do about the world around us? And does our investment strategy still make sense? I'm not telling people to get out of the market. I'm just saying, if you own these 14 different positions, do they still make sense given what's going on now, or do we have to readjust? We're going through a situation with a lot of our clients right now where we're not getting out of the market. What we are doing is we're reducing the amount of stock market volatility and risk, which seems to make great sense in this environment.
So Ron, given that, and we only have a couple minutes here left in the segment, but given the nature of these two articles that were submitted sort of for your comment and take on it, and what you just stated there, are you seeing a lot of worry and concern about the market? And after, 10 fantastic years in the market, with even including coronavirus, very few hiccups over the past decade, is that concern justified at this time?
Everybody, I won't say everybody, that's a blanket statement. A majority of the people, clients that we have, and the people that I talk to who aren't clients, are very concerned as to what's going on economically. Push the politics aside for a moment. But economically, with inflation, supply chain issues, energy going up, markets kind of rolling over. People are worried, and I think rightly so. I think to say, I'm not worried, don't worry, be happy, things are always going to come back, I'm not sure that that makes good rational sense. Because the Chinese have an expression, they have a lot of expressions, but the Chinese have an expression that says, it's kind of like a curse, I think, may you live in interesting times. And we are living in interesting times. So I think the sense, the concern, the uncertainty that people have, I think is based in rational thinking. The question then becomes, let's dig deeper to find out where your real concerns are, and does it line up with how you're invested? If people are comfortable with how they're invested, they're not quite as concerned about what's going on around them. If it lines up with their concerns, it always has to line up with where are you mentally and emotionally with your investments. And let's create a portfolio, a strategy that lines up with what you want. Everybody wants growth. Everybody wants to have 15% annualized rate of returns for the next 40 years. I doubt that's going to happen. I don't even know what's going to happen by the end of this year, but I know there's a lot of things to be concerned about. So let's make sure that however you're invested, we understand directionally where this thing may go. And does it create a comfortable level for you to be able to sleep at night? Because if you can't sleep at night, that's a real red flag that something's not right. And you need to talk to somebody to make some adjustments or to figure out what to do. So ladies and gentlemen, we're kind of getting into the thick of it here, but if anything I've said so far kind of rings a bell, give us a call, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. You don't even have to be a client, but put in your questions and we'll help you. We'll help you get some clarity with what you own. We'll help you understand as best as we understand it, what's going on in the world and where maybe the potential landmines and what we might do to get around them. I go back a lot of times when I used landmines. I was in this little personal thing, but I was in the military and I was in mechanized infantry. And you have a lot of things to be concerned about. But one of our biggest concerns was hitting a landmine. You never knew exactly when that was going to happen. But one of the things we always did is do the very best we can to minimize the potential. Yeah, and sometimes some of the things we ran on hit mines. It wasn't pleasant. But we always, for those of you out there with mechanized infantry, we always kind of tracked in the same way. We didn't go out of our way. There was new land to go over. We followed through. If the track in front of us didn't blow up, then we knew it was safe to keep going in that direction. And that's kind of the way it is in markets. We don't know where the landmines are, but we know there's certain things we can do to minimize potential damage. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put your question in and we'll help you. Give us a call.
And we're talking about a few of those questions on today's program. Plenty more to come, so don't go anywhere. But now is a great chance for maybe you to take a pause and get answers to your questions. Give Cornerstone Retirement Partners a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Gosley. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow. Visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
And welcome back to the program. This is Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Resource for a common sense approach to our financial, our investment, our retirement planning and choices and decisions. The team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners, Grand Rapids, your resource. And if you've got questions or concerns, they always welcome you to ask them, submit them, give a call, get an answer, and we'll help you to get guidance and direction on a proactive, positive nature to help you make that financial progress that you're looking for. Give a call, 616-301-2581, or you can go online to cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. And today we are addressing some of the topics that we commonly hear about, some of the questions that others have had with certified financial planner Ron Corser. So Ron, this next one has to do with funding retirement. And it basically was just a question on your thoughts on reverse mortgages.
I get that question whenever some people on TV start talking about it. Eventually, I get that question. Yeah. Here's where I come down on reverse mortgages. Like just about everything else, a key question is always to ask, what is it going to do for me? And does it make sense? What is a reverse mortgage? It's just a way to take money out of your home. It's a loan. It's like another mortgage payment, but you never have to pay it back. It's not too good to be true. It's a way to, when somebody has their greatest, perhaps, asset in retirement is the home. The best way you can access it sometimes is through a reverse mortgage. Now, you can also compare a reverse mortgage. Well, I'll just go out and take a home mortgage loan out. Well, that becomes a bill that you have to pay back at some point in time in retirement. With a reverse mortgage, you don't have to pay it back ever, as long as you and your spouse stay in the home and maintain it. It only comes due if you both have to leave the home, either because you need custodial care somewhere else or you both die. And then the bank takes the house back, sells it, and pays back the loan. But it's never a burden on your children in terms of inheriting or anything like that. So does it make sense? It's not a widely used approach, but I have met people whose biggest asset was their giant house. And that's where the cash could come from. And it made sense for them to at least investigate a reverse mortgage. And that's always the key, isn't it? When you hear something, investigate it to see if it makes sense, because there's a lot of folks that say, oh, it's a terrible thing to do. You hear that a lot, but it may be a very good thing to do for some people in certain ways. So we don't deal with them, but we can help people come in contact with certain financial institutions that do it. It's something to look into. That's all it is. And it may make some sense for some people going forward.
Okay. Case by case basis, as many of these questions are, but is it a tool that's available? Is it something that you may want to consider? I don't think that there's any financial option out there that is always the correct answer, nor is there any that is always the incorrect answer. That's why so many options exist, because we all have individual sets of circumstances. But if you want to weigh your options and compare them with your situation and your circumstances to try to evaluate what is the best option for you, that's why you've got the resource of a certified financial planner here on your course to retirement, and there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. If you'd like to give a call, you are always welcome to call Ron Corser and the rest of the team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Now, Ron, the next topic is a big one. We get a lot of questions on this, and for good reason. The tax code is 70,000 plus pages, and many of us save in ways that cause tax implications, either benefits or disadvantages, or pay me now or pay me later. There are just so many different choose your own adventure rabbit holes that we can go down with taxes that it is the source of a lot of question and confusion. So just one kind of comment that was submitted is that the tax man does not make it easy to retire. That is all.
And a tax man does that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because the tax man never giveth, he only taketh away. Blessed be the name of the tax man. Well, here's a couple of questions that I get. One of them, when I retire, does it make sense to go to Florida? I get that question a lot, because people they go to Florida to spend a couple months down there.
It's nice. It's warm.
Sense. Yeah.
Winters are a little bit more moderate, more mild.
Particularly these past year or so, I've had clients go down there and they said, man, it's like a whole different world compared to living in Michigan or or they said my friends came from Canada or New York, and it's because of the COVID issue, it's like a different country, and they like it a lot. So it doesn't make sense to move to a tax-friendly state. Again, it gets down to what you're trying to accomplish. We've had a couple of clients that actually have changed residency and gone to Florida, and a few years later, they redid it and came back to Michigan because the taxes that they saved in Florida in their own particular situation really didn't amount to as much as they thought they were going to, given where they were paying other taxes. There's no state, Florida or any place, that's tax-free. So you have to look at, you save some of the income, but then what are you going to do with real estate taxes and other things like that? So that's something to look at. You know, if from a financial point of view, it's easy to figure out the pluses and minuses. From an emotional point of view, that's a little different. Some people are sick of winter. Some people are sick of the lockdown and all of that stuff going on, and they just want to get out of the way and go enjoy life again while they can. And I understand that. So it always is, let's take a look at what makes sense. If you're going to move to Florida or another state that makes some sense from a tax point of view. Here's another one I get. And I'll just read this whole statement because she sent it to me. I've heard you discuss that taxes are going to go up over the next several years. At the same time, I'm going to be required to start taking my required minimum distributions. So should I start taking money out of my IRA now because my required minimum distribution is going to be higher? It's a great question. It's one of the things we can help people understand is how do we deal with not only the tax implication of their tax deferred money in IRAs or 401ks, but what do we do about going forward when the tax man comes? And the tax man then comes now with required minimum distribution starting at age 72. The first year, the required minimum distribution is 3.65% of all your tax deferred money. So if you postpone, if you're 65 now, you have 7 years before you have to take money out. Well, what happens if over the next 7 years, your retirement accounts increase by 50 or 60 or 70% because the markets have been good and you've done a good job investing? That just means your required minimum distribution is going to be that much higher, which is going to impact your total taxable income, which is going to impact maybe what you have to do with Medicare Part B and all of that stuff. So the question becomes, what should you do? If you think, ladies and gentlemen, the taxes are going to go up, income taxes are going to go up, it might make sense to look now at how you might minimize taxes that you have to pay on income on a long-term basis. So where's the sweet spot in all of this? The sweet spot really comes over the 10-year, the period between age 62 and age 72. And taking what your life savings is in IRAs and 401ks, it may be a prudent decision to start taking some money out, converting it to Roth accounts, or just taking money out and spending it because we're in the lowest tax world we may be in for the rest of our days. And understand this, if nothing changes by the end of 2025, our tax rules are going to go back to where they were in 2017, which means the 12% bracket goes up to 15. Taxes are going to go up automatically in about 3 years if they don't do anything in Washington, D.C. So the question becomes, okay, is there a strategy that makes sense either to spend my tax deferred money now because I have to take it out eventually, or to do some conversions into Roth accounts because it'll make sense down the road? It's a really important thing to take into consideration. Now, what should one do if you're 72 or 73 already and you have to take the requirement distribution, but here's a question, here's a big one, but you don't need the income or want it? There are things you can do to minimize or eliminate the tax on that. One of the great deductions we have is a qualified charitable deduction. You get to be age 72, you can send your entire required minimum distribution to a charity of your choice. It never counts as income on your income tax return, and you never pay tax on it. So if you're of a charitable mind, you're giving, you're a charitable person, and you want to give money to your church and you're 72 or older and you have RMDs, one of the best ways to do it is just to give that money to the church. I tell people, I don't believe Jesus would mind if you took got a tax benefit out of giving to a charity of your choice, particularly the church. I think it makes good sense. It makes us good, prudent managers of our money. So there are things we can do. So ladies and gentlemen, if this tax issue is something that you want to talk about, give us a call, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Put in your question about taxes and we'll help you with it. Again, give us a call, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and we can help sort through this. And there's a lot to it. The IRS tax code has over 75,000 pages in it. So there's a lot to sort through, and we can help you sort through that and develop what we call a rational approach to how you want to handle the taxes in your retirement accounts and in retirement going forward. Give us a call, 616-301-2581.
Ron, on a related question, and this is sort of tax and then segueing into making sure my money lasts, but the gist of the question is, because those RMD requirements go up every year and surpass 4%, how does this help me make sure that my money lasts?
Well, that's why you need a strategy for income. You need an income plan in retirement. That's the simple answer. Rather than just trying to, hope it works out. Hope is not a really good retirement plan. You really need to have a retirement income plan in retirement that makes sure you have all the income you need to maintain your lifestyle. And that takes into consideration what we've touched on a little bit already. What kind of investment strategy is appropriate for you to generate the kind of income you want? What kind of income do you really need? What's the tax implication? How are your accounts laid out right now? There's only three kinds of accounts you can have. One is a tax-deferred account, a 401k IRA. One is a tax-free account, a Roth IRA account, or life insurance if it's been properly structured. The other one is a tax advantage account, meaning I don't pay directly taxes on it, but I do get that 1099 at the end of the year that tells me my accounts had dividends, interest, capital gains, and maybe some losses to write off. But that's income that I still have to declare on my tax return. So putting all those things together and finding answers for that is something we do. I think we're pretty good at it. We really are, to make sure we put together a plan that fits you as the individual, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a plan for your neighbor, it's a plan for you. It's not a plan for your children, it's a plan for you. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com, and we can help you sort through all of this and put it together in the most rational way possible for the maximum benefit, legal benefit you can have in retirement.
Another one, Ron, that is maybe more specific, doesn't happen often, but when it does, we need to know how to remedy and what is the solution. My brother retired and has a sizable amount in retirement accounts, completed the paperwork to have it transferred and rolled over, but instead the entire amount was deposited into his checking account. Will he have to pay the taxes on this, and how does he fix it?
Boy, I'm tell you what, I'm glad I'm not the advisor who did that. I really not. So what happened? The guy retired. He wanted to move his money somehow, some way. Instead of moving it from a 401k to an IRA, he moved it from a 401k to his checking account. They held back 20% in taxes. So he's sitting there. If he had $500,000 that did it, he's looking at a $500,000 taxable income plan for this tax year. Wow, I'm glad it's not me. There is a solution, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the solution. If you picked up on the problem soon enough, you can do what's called a 60-day rollover. So for example, if in the 1st of February, that's when this transaction took place, you can do a do-over. You get a mulligan as long as you take the money and put it back into an IRA within 60 calendar days of when that distribution took place. And if you have money in the bank, you can even take the 20% that was held back in tax and put that back into it. but you have to do it within 60 days. If you don't do it within 60 days, this mistake becomes a catastrophic error and it's all fully taxable. So if anybody out there is thinking about doing it, it's really important that your advisors understand what goes on and what has to happen. You never want to do this in a way that even you have the small potential of error. We always do it so that it's error-free, because that's a big tax bill, boy, if that happens to you. And I've been told and seen instances where that has happened, and it's devastating. How would you like to have a $500,000 tax bill
that you did not intend? Yeah,
that would be horrible. That would just be horrible.
Well, again, if you are looking at retirement accounts, wanting to make sure that you're not paying taxes unnecessarily, typically, Ron, rolling over any kind of retirement accounts, kind of collecting and consolidating those older 401ks, repositioning them as IRAs, that transaction and transition in and of itself does not cost us anything in taxes at the moment, but you've got to do it the right way, it sounds like. And even if there is an oops and something messes up, there may be some recourse there, but better yet, cross the T's correctly, dot the I's correctly, don't get it wrong in the first place. But as long as we get it right, not a taxable event to roll that money over to take control of it and better position ourselves for retirement.
And there's one other issue, and it came into effect here in the beginning of February. There's new rules that we have to follow as fiduciaries. And we are a fiduciary. Nolan Gosley and me, we are fiduciaries. Our company is a fiduciary, meaning we have to do what's in the best interest of our clients. But there are new rules and regulations that we have to follow to document that actually moving money from a tax-deferred account, whether it's an IRA or 401k, is actually in the best interest of the client. And we have to be able to document that and prove that. So that's another piece of information and documentation that we as fiduciary advisors have to go through to make sure what we do is in the best interest of the client, in addition to just simply not messing up the paperwork and creating a monumental tax liability for the client.
Well, again, there are things that you need to do. There are certain things that advisors need to make sure are done correctly on your behalf, ladies and gentlemen. And to get that kind of perspective and guidance and make sure that you are making the correct steps, pick up the phone, give a call to Cornerstone Retirement Partners. Certified financial planner Ron Corser and the team there can lead you through those steps to make sure that you are planning appropriately, being efficient with your money, not making any mistakes as you are positioning it correctly for your future goals and intentions. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And Ron, because Cornerstone Retirement Partners handles both the health and the wealth side, we get a handful of questions on healthcare as well. One of the top ones right now being, how do we fill that donut hole? If we're going to retire early before 65, what do we do about health insurance costs and healthcare expenses?
That's a great lead in, because it's really important. And more people are retiring before age 65. Why is that? Because of this whole COVID mess issue and other things going on. So how can we help? I got a question here. Amber, she says, I'm going to retire. I'm only 58. What am I going to do about health insurance? Here's where we can be a great help. My wife, in part of Cornerstone Retirement Partners, my wife Nancy has a whole team that handles the Medicare, the open enrollment stuff, the marketplace, Obamacare things. We can be a great resource for anybody trying to figure out, what am I going to do about healthcare before I'm 65 and get into Medicare? It's a really important piece of help that we give people, because you can make a decision that may give you some coverage, but it could be expensive. So what Nancy's able to do with her team is provide options for people. Different places, different ways to handle the healthcare issue. If you're pre-age 65, you're not going to be in Medicare. You got to go to open enrollment, Obamacare, the marketplace. She can help you with that. Also with drug plans. It's really a big, big part of the whole retirement planning scenario, and we're able to do it. We're not a firm that says, well, you have to go talk to somebody else about healthcare. We do it all here. We do the healthcare part of the planning, and we do the investment part of the planning and the income part. Think about this. Healthcare will probably be the number one or number two biggest expense in retirement, whether you retire at age 58 or 68. What's going to be the other one? Taxes. They're going to be the two biggest issues for us to deal with. It really is. So we can help the people.
Well, in some cases, Ron, those two things can impact each other. Like so many things with planning, the earlier you can identify certain goals, the better you can begin to build toward achieving them. And I know in certain circumstances, if it is a goal to retire early, say like in Amber's case at 58 or maybe 60, but you know that there is going to be a donut hole there before you hit Medicare age in 65, then you may want to have conversations about the benefits of saving everything in those tax deferred accounts versus, Ron, saving things in Roths or non-qualified accounts or just kind of bank style after tax accounts, because that can help us in the options that we have to sort of control income and maybe qualify for some of the health care expense programs that would offset some of the costs and reduce our bills and expenses.
Yeah, that's a great point. And my wife, Nancy, deals with that, and we try to help out because it's important when you're not in the Medicare program and you're trying to get the marketplace or Obamacare. There are income limits we have to become very aware of, so that people can get somewhat of a benefit or a bit of a reduction in the cost of healthcare. So it's a real balancing act, and we take it very seriously because you don't want to make a mistake on that. It could become a very important and very serious mistake. So we work together, the healthcare part and also the income part in retirement, to try to figure out how we're going to manage this to get you the healthcare you want at the least cost. It's not cut and dried. It takes a little bit of management, but we're able to do that very well because she knows everything there is about this healthcare issue, and her staff. They're that good. And then we know the things we need to know to make sure that we can provide the best advice to give that client the income they need in retirement and also the lowest cost of healthcare in retirement. They go together. So ladies and gentlemen, if this is important to you, if you're planning on retiring before age 65, please give us a call. We can help you with these things, with the income side and with the healthcare side. We do it for our clients. So give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. That's www.cornerstone-rp.com. And put in the questions like a lot of the folks have put in questions that we're talking about today. We will answer your questions and we'll try to give you all the help you need. It's what we do.
And again, you can call, you can get a time to sit down and go through the details of your individual situation, a forensic financial analysis, and a written course to retirement plan. Or you can just ask a few direct questions that have been on your mind and get your concerns addressed. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can also go online and submit some questions there. Cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. And Ron, kind of going full circle here, you started the program off sharing a story about somebody who had experienced a time that was a great time to be in the market. The decade run in the 90s was a fantastic time, and a lot of people were kind of turning the corner, planning on retiring at the end of that decade, feeling rather confident. Very similar to what we've seen over the last decade. We have seen a meteoric, fantastic rise in the market, and a lot of us are very appreciative of that. And some of us are planning on retiring in the next few years. We had a question after the past several years of saving and market performance. I feel pretty well prepared for retirement. What should I do if I'm concerned that we might see a correction in the year or years to come? I think a pretty poignant question and observation?
I get that a lot, not only in face-to-face calls and with our clients, but other people. And that's a good one. And if you think something bad may happen or could get ugly, think about this. I'm not trying to scare people. I really don't. But think about this. We've had a pretty good decade, all things considered. It is really rare in the investment world that we have 2 decades back to back that are just so awesome beyond belief. You can't hardly stand it, as they say. It's pretty hard to have that. So we had a great one that ended in 1999, 2000 and 2010 wasn't too swift. This past decade has been pretty good to investors. I don't know what the next decade's going to be, but I do know that there's going to be increased risk in the world, and there will be probably increased investment risk. So it's like skiing downhill. You can just go straight downhill and hope that you don't break your neck, or you can go slalom down the hill and go a little slower. So times being what they are, I always suggest that we err on the side of being a bit conservative. We err on the side of being a bit rational. We err on the side of not looking for 15% annualized rate of returns. But how do we get the income we need in retirement with the least amount of risk? Isn't that what investing is all about? How do I get what I want with the least amount of risk? That doesn't mean I give up gains. It just says I manage the risk. And that's what we can help you manage, the risk in the portfolio. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. I don't know where the future is going to be, and unfortunately, I have no control over the markets. So let's control what we can. We can control risk. We can control strategies. We can control how much we spend. And if we do this in a way that gives you what you need to maintain your lifestyle, isn't that what we're really looking for? How do I maintain my lifestyle in retirement without losing my shirt? We can help you with that. So give us a call, 616-301-2581.
Always appreciate the time and the perspective, Ron. He is certified financial planner, Ron Courser, there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, Grand Rapids, your resource to get your questions answered. Give them a call. They're looking forward to hearing from you. 616-301-2581. We'll talk to you next week on Your Course to Retirement.
This has been a fun topic for me today. We look forward to hearing from you folks. Drive safely and have a blessed day.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock at News Radio WOOD, or visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals or growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the products featured